and welcome to the Absolute Recap Biology Edition, where we aim to maximize your understanding and minimize your need for memorization. Each episode will recap content, skills, and test-taking tips to help you succeed in May. I'm your host, Melanie Kingett, and your recap starts now. Hi, and welcome to the Absolute Recap Biology Edition. This is our 50th episode. Hooray! Today's episode will recap prokaryotic versus eukaryotic cells. Let's zoom out. We're in Unit 2, Cell Structure and Function. Topic 2.11, Origins of Cell Compartmentalization. Our big idea is evolution. The cell is the most basic unit of life, which for some multicellular organisms become highly specialized and combine to form tissues, organs, and organ systems. But you don't need to be that complex.
The effects of weightlessness will also be studied on the single-celled amoeba.
A single cell can survive on its own if it has all the tools to do so. It's typically not a complicated life and is often a short one. This episode will recap the commonalities and differences between cell types. Let's zoom in. Nerding out in etymology for a second, which is the study of words and their origins. Eukaryote, from the Greek, eu meaning well, good, or true, and karyon meaning nut or kernel. So a eukaryote is described as a good nut? Well, not quite. It implies that it has a true kernel, which in our analogy will be the enclosed genetic information in the nucleus. Whereas prokaryote, pro meaning before, is going to be a cell that lacks a nucleus because it was before the nut. Ending in OTE is in noun form, but we can also use these terms as adjectives to describe a type of cell, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. We will see the root word karyo in other applications related to DNA, like with a karyotype, the mapping out of chromosomes. Let's start with differences first. The main distinguishing features between cell types will be with the nuclear membrane, organelle types, cell size, and genetic organization. Prokaryotic cells were the first to evolve in the history of life on Earth. They were the only ones around for billions of years. These cells include the domain bacteria and domain archaea. There is no domain called prokarya. Sorry. That would be convenient. Prokaryotic cells will not contain a nucleus, nor will they have membrane-bound organelles, which means no mitochondria, chloroplast, endoplasmic reticulum, or Golgi. You may see additional structures like cilia and flagella used for movement, and cell walls. They are small and have a short lifespan. In fact, some bacteria reproduce through binary fission every 30 minutes. In contrast, eukaryotic cells are larger and evolved later, some 2.7 billion years ago. These cell types are found in the domain Eukarya, with kingdoms Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. Most protists are unicellular, but fungi, plants, and animals will have eukaryotic cells combining in multicellular organisms. Be careful. Eukaryotes aren't synonymous with multicellular, and prokaryotes don't mean unicellular, although all prokaryotes are unicellular.
Well, why not make a note right now before you forget?
Both of the cell types on our podcast cover art are unicellular eukaryotes from the kingdom Protista, the amoeba, and paramecium. Eukaryotic cells all contain a nucleus and have membrane-bound organelles with specialized functions, like the mitochondria, chloroplast, endoplasmic reticulum, and Golgi. The nucleus stores DNA in multiple strands of linear form, chromatin, and the condensed chromosomes, and has a dense nucleolus where rRNA is produced. Some eukaryotic cells will have cell walls with unique chemical composition per kingdom.
Hi there, producer Brad here. I wasn't always what you would call the best student. In fact, a fellow student once complimented me by saying how much my illustration skills had progressed over the course of our first semester philosophy class, where I may or may not have gotten a D. However, I did do very well in all of my online courses, so much so that my grandfather said that maybe I should avoid in-person interactions altogether. But the point is, everybody learns differently, and sometimes all you need to understand a difficult topic is a different perspective. The Absolute Recap live virtual classrooms allow you to collaborate with AP students from all over the world. Each 90-minute lesson is hosted through Zoom by your favorite podcasting teachers and focuses on specific course topics. Our teachers use visual aids, provide opportunities for student practice and Q&A, plus they give you a downloadable study packet. Our virtual classroom is a great opportunity to review for tests throughout the year as well as prepare for the exam in May. Reserve a seat for one class or book your seat for the year with our virtual classroom bundle and save. Now, back to the recap.
Let's settle in for a story. Once upon a time, small prokaryotic microbes were minding their own business when a unicellular eukaryote came over and tried to engulf them through phagocytosis. Now, instead of digesting the little microbes, they formed a symbiotic relationship. You scratch my back, and I'll scratch yours. The microbes were protected from other external predators, and the eukaryote now had an intracellular energy converting factory. Not a bad partnership. This is known as the endosymbiosis theory. It is thought that both chloroplasts and mitochondria were once independent prokaryotes. Not only do they have their own circular DNA, ribosomes, and replicate independently by binary fission, but they are also approximately the size of existing prokaryotic cells. Furthermore, they have double membranes, the inner membrane representative of their original cell, and the outer membrane deriving from the eukaryote that tried to consume them during endocytosis vesicle formation. It's all compatible, since membranes are composed of the same phospholipids and proteins. Fun fact, both mitochondrial and chloroplast DNA follow maternal lineages through sexual reproduction, as eggs and ovules contribute these organelle structures to the embryo. So, if you are looking at a plant cell, you find DNA in 3 separate places: in the nucleus, the mitochondria, and chloroplast. So what do these cells have in common? Both prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells contain genetic information, cytoplasm, ribosomes, and have a plasma membrane. After all, you gotta make them proteins. They do all the work. Time for unit connections. You'll find these cell types in Unit 2 with membrane permeability and structure, Unit 3 with photosynthesis, cellular respiration, and the electron transport chain, Unit 4 with signal transduction and the cell cycle, Unit 5 with genetic diversity, Unit 6 with the structure of genetic information, central dogma, and gene expression, and Unit 7 with common ancestry. All right, what about the exam? You may be asked to compare these cell types, especially with evolution, and advantages from one to the other. You will need to distinguish between each strategy for gene expression, and they love a good application question related to the endosymbiosis theory. Don't get stuck on one particular diagram of cell types. Focus on application and relative location of organelles as part of processes. To recap, prokaryotes are smaller, do not contain a nucleus nor membrane-bound organelles, and organize their DNA in a circular loop. Eukaryotes are larger, contain a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles, and organize their DNA linearly in chromosomes. Both cell types have ribosomes, DNA, cytoplasm, and a plasma membrane. Coming up next on the Absolute Recap Biology Edition, Dull King Philip. Today's question of the day is about organelles. The liver has many functions, one of which is to process alcohol and detoxify the blood. Which organelle would you expect to find in greater quantity within liver cells? For the answer to the question of the day, please follow us on Instagram at TheApsoluteRecap. That's the APsolute Recap. Check out our website, TheApsoluteRecap.com, for episode schedules, study guides, virtual tutoring, and to sign up for our virtual classroom. The Absolute Recap is produced by Brad Kingett with music by Zach Caruso. Today's episode was written by me, Melanie Kingett. Thanks for subscribing, and don't forget to rate and review wherever you get podcasts. Time's up. Pencils down. Thank you for listening to the Absolute Recap Biology Edition. AP is a registered trademark of the College Board. Copyright 2020, Absolute Recap LLC, all rights reserved.